Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what you're about to hear is one of the most explosive moments ever witnessed on British daytime television. Sir Rod Stewart, the legendary rock icon who's been strutting on stages for over 6 decades, was literally kicked off the set of Loose Women after an absolutely brutal, no-holds-barred confrontation with Denise Welch that left the studio in complete chaos, the audience gasping, and millions of viewers at home picking their jaws up off the floor. This wasn't just a little disagreement, oh no, this was a full-on war of words that escalated so fast that producers had no choice but to intervene and remove the 80-year-old music legend before things got physical. It all went down on the 25th of November 2025 during a live broadcast that was supposed to be a fun, light-hearted catch-up with Rod and his wife Penny Lancaster, who of course is a regular Loose Women panelist. Rod was there to promote his new swing album and talk about his upcoming tours, looking as sharp as ever in a glittering jacket, that famous spiky hair on point, flashing the cheeky grin that has melted hearts since the 1960s. The panel that day was stacked: Denise Welch, Colleen Nolan, Nadia Sawalha, Jane Moore, and host Christine Lampard trying to keep everything together. At first it was all laughs. Rod was flirting with the ladies, telling stories about his 8 kids, his model trains, his Celtic obsession, and how he and Penny keep the spark alive after all these years. The audience was eating it up, Penny was beaming with pride, and social media was already buzzing with clips of Rod singing a few bars of Maggie May. But underneath the smiles, there was tension brewing because everyone knows Denise Welch does not hold back. This is the woman who has clashed with everyone from Piers Morgan to Dickie Arbiter, who speaks openly about her battles with depression, addiction, and who never shies away from calling out what she sees as privilege or hypocrisy. And Rod Stewart, for all his charm, has never been one to stay silent when he feels attacked. He's the man who personally paid to fix potholes in his Essex village because he was so fed up with the government. The man who has publicly slammed politicians left and right. The man who has lived one of the wildest rock and roll lives imaginable and wears it like a badge of honor. So when these two forces of nature collided on live television, it was only a matter of time before sparks flew, and fly they did, in the most spectacular fashion imaginable, turning what should have been a cozy chat into one of the most talked about meltdowns in Loose Women history. The episode started exactly as you'd expect: lots of laughter, Rod charming everyone with tales of his Las Vegas residency, joking about his knighthood, and even getting up to dance with Penny while the audience cheered wildly. Christine Lampard was guiding the conversation perfectly, asking Rod about his health after his recent scares, how he stays so energetic at 80, and what it's like being married to a loose woman. Penny was gushing about how proud she is of her husband. The panel was cooing over photos of their blended family, and Denise was smiling along, complimenting Rod on his timeless style and incredible career. For the first 20 minutes it was pure joy. Rod even joked about his infamous reputation with women back in the day, saying he's now a reformed character completely devoted to Penny, and everyone laughed. But then the topic shifted, as it so often does on Loose Women, to more serious matters. They started talking about the pressures of fame, mental health in the industry, and how older celebrities are treated in today's cancel culture climate. Denise, being the passionate advocate she is, opened up about her own very public struggles with clinical depression and addiction, explaining how difficult it is when people tell you to just snap out of it or man up. The panel nodded sympathetically. Penny shared her own experiences with menopause and policing, and then Christine turned to Rod and asked what advice he would give to younger stars going through similar issues. That's when the first crack appeared. Rod, in his typical no-nonsense, old-school rock star way, said something along the lines of, "Look, love, in my day we didn't have all this mental health talk. We just got on with it. You had a bad day, you had a drink, you went out and performed for 20,000 people the next night. That's what built character." The studio went a bit quiet. You could see Denise's face change immediately. Her eyes narrowed, her smile disappeared, and she leaned forward in her chair. She said, very calmly at first, with respect, "Rod, that's exactly the kind of toxic attitude that kept people like me suffering in silence for years. Not everyone can just have a drink and get on with it as some of us were drowning." Rod laughed it off at first, thinking she was joking, but Denise wasn't smiling anymore. She doubled down, saying that privileged rock stars like him who partied their way through the 70s and 80s have no idea what real struggle looks like for ordinary people or even for many in the industry today. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees in seconds flat. What happened next was pure television dynamite. Denise Welch, never one to back down from a fight, went straight for the jugular, accusing Rod of being completely out of touch with modern mental health awareness because of his wealth and privilege. She brought up his famous playboy lifestyle, the multiple marriages, the children with different women, saying that men like him were able to behave however they wanted while women were judged and broken by the same industry. Rod's face turned thunderous as this was no longer banter, this was personal. He interrupted her, voice rising, saying, "Hang on a minute, love. I've earned every penny I've got through hard work and talent. I've been through my own battles, a cancer twice. Remember, I've supported the NHS. I've paid for people's operations out of my own pocket when the system failed them. Don't you dare sit there and lecture me about privilege when you've made a career out of talking about your problems on television." The audience let out a collective gasp. Penny Lancaster looked absolutely mortified, trying to calm her husband down. But Rod was in full flow now. Denise fired back even harder, saying that paying for a few scans doesn't make up for decades of contributing to a culture that destroyed women's mental health, and that his generation of rock stars got away with behavior that would be cancelled today. She even brought up his ex-wives and girlfriends, saying some of them had spoken about how difficult it was being with him. Rod exploded. He slammed his hand on the desk, stood up, and shouted, "Who the hell do you think you are? I've forgotten more about this industry than you'll ever know. I've sold 250 million records while you've been on a soap opera." The studio erupted as some audience members were cheering, others were booing. Colleen Nolan was trying to intervene, Nadia was open-mouthed, and Christine Lampard was frantically signaling for a commercial break. But it was too late. How the damage was done, and Rod was pacing like a caged lion, pointing at Denise and saying she had disrespected him in front of his wife and the nation. The moment that will go down in daytime TV history came just seconds later when security actually appeared on set. Yes, you heard that right. Security guards in black suits walked onto the Loose Women stage while the show was still live because producers feared the situation was about to turn physical. Rod was still shouting, Denise was giving it back just as fiercely, refusing to apologize, saying she would not be silenced by some dinosaur rock star who thinks money buys respect. Penny Lancaster was in tears trying to pull Rod away, begging him to sit down, but he was having none of it. He called Denise rude, disrespectful, and a bitter failed actress who was jealous of his success. Denise laughed in his face and said, "Jealous? I've got a happy marriage, successful children, and I don't need hair plugs and platform boots to feel relevant at 80. That was the final straw. Rod Stewart, the man who has performed for royalty, who has headlined Glastonbury and Wembley, who has survived everything the music industry could throw at him, completely lost it. He told Denise exactly where she could go in language that definitely wasn't daytime appropriate, threw his microphone down, and started walking off set. But before he could leave, 2 security guards stepped in front of him, and after a quick word in his ear from a producer, they escorted him out of the studio completely. The camera followed him all the way to the exit, where he was still ranting and raving, kicking a chair on his way out. Meanwhile, back on the sofa, Denise was shaking with adrenaline. The other panelists were in total shock, and Christine Lampard had to cut to an emergency break 4 minutes early while apologizing profusely to viewers. Social media exploded immediately. Rod Stewart and Loose Women were trending worldwide within minutes. Clips of the confrontation racked up tens of millions of views, and people were choosing sides faster than you can say hot legs. The fallout from this incident has been absolutely nuclear. Within hours of the show ending, Rod Stewart's team released a statement saying he had been ambushed and disrespected on live television and would never return to Loose Women, while sources close to Denise Welch said she stood by every word and refused to apologize for speaking truth to power. Penny Lancaster was seen leaving the ITV studios in tears, helped into a car by minders, and later posted a cryptic message on Instagram about protecting your peace. Meanwhile, Denise went straight to her own Instagram live from her dressing room, still buzzing with anger, telling her followers that she had simply been honest and that Rod couldn't handle a strong woman challenging his outdated views. The clip of her saying hair plugs and platform boots has become the most shared meme of 2025 so far, with people editing it over everything from football fails to political debates. Other celebrities quickly weighed in. Piers Morgan obviously backed Denise, calling Rod a snowflake rocker, while Lily Allen and several others defended Rod's right to his opinion. The 1975's Matty Healy, Denise's son, posted a simple raised fist emoji that sent his fans into meltdown. ITV released an official statement saying they regret the escalation but stood by their panelists' right to express opinions, though insiders say bosses are furious about losing such a high-profile guest in that manner. Ofcom confirmed they received over 2,000 complaints in the first 24 hours, mostly from Rod Stewart fans accusing Denise of bullying an elderly man. But Denise's supporters flooded social media saying she spoke for an entire generation of women who are sick of being talked over by privileged men. The Daily Mail, The Sun, and every tabloid ran it as their front page splash. A rocker Rod kicked ITV Loose Women and Denise meltdown, complete with frame-by-frame breakdowns of the exact moment Rod lost his temper. Now, weeks later, the drama shows no signs of dying down. Rod Stewart has been photographed looking furious outside his Essex mansion, and sources say he's considering legal action against ITV for the way he was treated. Denise Welch, meanwhile, has been celebrated as a hero by many women's groups and has seen her Instagram following explode by hundreds of thousands. She's been booked on every podcast going to tell her side of the story, calling the incident the most liberating moment of my career. Penny Lancaster returned to Loose Women alone the following week and very tearfully defended her husband, saying he was provoked and that Denise crossed a line bringing up personal family matters. Rod himself finally broke his silence in a radio interview where he called Denise a nasty piece of work who planned the whole thing for attention, and vowed never to share a stage with her again. But the real winners here are us, the viewers, because we got to witness one of the rawest, most real moments ever broadcast on daytime television, and no scripting, no filter, just two massive personalities going at it hammer and tongs. Whether you think Denise was right to challenge Rod's privilege or whether you think she bullied an 80-year-old legend, one thing is undeniable: this confrontation will be talked about for decades. It has exposed the generational divide in celebrity culture, the boundaries of what is acceptable on daytime TV, and reminded everyone that even at 80, Rod Stewart still has that rock and roll fire burning strong. Loose Women will never be the same again. Denise Welch has cemented her reputation as the queen of no filter, and Rod has proven that nobody, absolutely nobody, gets to disrespect the legendary Sir Rod Stewart without consequences. What a time to be alive.